So I'm back with another movie review, and this one is for Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. Now this was a good movie, I'll say. There's a few parts that were just a bit off-putting, just a bit, but this was a good movie. This was a great movie. Like I had been waiting, I had been anticipating this movie because it just looked so good, and finally we got to see, of course, the Mandarin when he was first introduced, in the very first installment of Tony Stark and Iron Man. Well, not the very first one, but y'all get what I mean. And the fake Mandarin. And I was wondering, like, and then they did like I think it was like an ending scene. I can't remember which movie it was in, and when they showed like the guy who was the actual Mandarin, who this guy was playing a knockoff as, and I was like, so we're finally getting that guy, okay. And then I saw the trailer, and I was like, wow, this looks really good. I can't wait to see this movie. And then finally, I watched it finally, and it was good. I gotta admit, it was funny and it was good at the same time. And so, the main character, they really tricked me good. They had, they put it from the point of view of somebody getting into like this nice car, and they had him, getting up, making us think he was the one driving, the probably hundreds of thousands of dollar car, probably millions. And it was some other dude, and he was, the valet, talking about some, I want to drive, no, let me drive. Oh, Aquafina cracks me up. But anyways, so he's, a valet person, and then he gets, I think he had got like it was like a letter or something like that, and he knew that his sister was in danger. And he gonna tell his friend, I gotta go save my sister. And she was like, since when did you have a sister? Why didn't I know about this? We're like best friends. We've been best friends for years. They got all kinds of memories built up. He was like, look, it's complicated. And it really was complicated. And, and then they had, and he went, showed his father and how that was ridiculous. But like all those years that he had lived, and then he got to that woman, and he was like, being greed, the spirit of greed and pride, just trying to take stuff that doesn't belong to you, that's what I'm saying. And so he meets her, and he's like, well, I'm gonna get in there and get what I want or whatever. And she was like, you're not coming up in here, you need to leave. And then they start fighting, and she's like all graceful and whatnot, like, and like stopping him, and I'm like, this is beautiful. But anyways, and then he then goofed around and fell in love. I'm like, this man has lived lifetimes. He has toppled all kinds of armies. He's defeated all kinds of people. And then he falls in love. That was funny. I'm sorry. But it was nice at the same time because she was able to, I guess, bring out a part of him that, well, nobody else could. I was like, well, you some kind of woman, lady. You some kind of woman. And then they have a whole kid. And then she just passes away, and I'm like, you gotta be, well, she didn't pass away, she was murdered, but it's like, dang it, it's like that it's almost like the relationship that, Superman has with Lois. It's like that one thing that was making his sanity hang in there, gone. And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. And it was just so sad, like how those men came after her. Like, I'm just like, first of all, look, you aren't crazy. You didn't have amnesia. You knew you were an awful person before you met her and fell in love and had kids. You knew there was people still out there looking for you. Why didn't you leave them? You should have took them with you. Like, if you were going to go out and get some groceries, you should have took the whole family. And I don't know, you should have left some bodyguards or something. Why did he leave her there by, like, I get it, he was probably thinking, well, maybe I'm safe. He should have took her with her. I don't care. When you didn't live that kind of life, you didn't make enemies. No, you don't get to do that. He should have took her and them kids with him. She stayed there, and they were like, oh, you're his wife. Yeah, well, we got a bone to pick with him. We're going to take it out on you. And she was like, well, the least you could do, cowards, is not involve my kids. And he was like, fine. But I was like, but sir, you're still scum because you're fighting a woman. But anyways, she was like, at least don't involve my kids. And they were like, whatever. So she was like, hide. And she's like, fine. It didn't even show you, like, all the fighting. But she busted their butts. But she died in the process. And I was like, that's horrible. And then he finally snaps. And he was like, I shouldn't have thought that I would ever be able to live a normal life and be happy and have love and romance. And then he goes off the deep end and brings his son, and he's talking about so you're gonna help me find the guy that, like, did it. I'm like, bro, you're talking to a child. And then he, like, trains him to be a killer. And then at like, I think it was like 15, he was like, "You're gonna go kill the guy that did it." And I'm like, "Why don't you go after him, you grown man?" But anyways, he was like, "You're gonna go do it." And I'm like, "Why would you do that to your son?" He was like, "Okay." And then he sends him out there, and he didn't come back. And his sister couldn't even train because she was, she's a girl, couldn't even train like the rest of everybody. I had to train in secret. I was like, "Oh, so not only are you an awful father, but you're sexist." Wow. And so, I felt bad for his sister because she was like, you said you were going to come back for me, and you left, and you stayed gone. Screw you. And I was like, did he really do that? And then he was like, "Oh, she's right. I did say I was going to go back." And, his friend was asking him, so what happened? He was like, "Well, my dad trained me, and he sent me after the guy that did what he did to our mother, and I told her I was going to go back, but I couldn't go back, and I knew that they were going to come after me, so I just left, and I never came back." And, she was like, "That is so awful." And he was like, "Yeah." And even like, with the scene with him on the bus, him on the bus fighting the guy, then cut the bus up. I'm like, so who's gonna pay? Who's gonna pay for that bus? That's what I want to know. Who's gonna pay for that bus? And she's driving the car, trying to drive the bus while he fighting, and they slicing the bus in half like a sandwich. And then, like, when he finally got to his sister, and she was like, "I can't stand you. You left me. You told me you would come back, and you didn't." And then it's kind of like she set him up. That confused me a little bit. So she set him up, and then she came back to help him. I was like, what sense does that make? It's like, you got to be mad at him forever, or you're going to forgive him and move on. Like, this little back and forward, I don't like it. She sets him up, I guess, or she knew, she bailed, I guess. Like, she figures, oh, something's going down, she just bailed. And he was like, what the heck? And then he's fighting, like, basically, like, people on the side of the building. I'm like, look, one misstep and y'all are all dead. Like, and then they just like stepping on the little whatchamacallums, like, and I'm just like, y'all do realize that if you slip, if you put your toe on the wrong, you're not paying attention, right? Like I said, y'all are dead. And so then she was like, "Oh my God," and then she falls on one of the little pieces, and she's hanging off, and I'm just like, you better go save her before she fall. And so he's just like, "I'm coming." And then he did not get her. She would have been dead. And then his sister helped. And I'm like, okay, so how she's doing all this? She's fighting, she's fighting real well. And then all of a sudden, the main assassin gonna come and then just snatch the thing that they were trying to get to out of her hand. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? You gotta be kidding me. I was so mad. And then he finally gets up there with her, and he's fighting the assassin, and his father show up, and I'm like, oh my God, the devil done walked in. And then they get brought back, and he was like, I told them that they weren't gonna win against you. And I'm just like, he's just stroking his own ego, whatever. But anyway, so he was like, well, I knew, that I would find you eventually. Like, y'all couldn't stay away from me for too long. And he was like, why didn't you try to come back? And he was like, well, we kind of thought that you were going to, like, do us in. He was like, nonsense, you're my children. And he really blew it off. Like, he wasn't going to try and hurt them. And I was like, I don't like this. And so he brought them back or whatever. Brought their friend back. And so, the sister, his sister was, she was getting along with, his friend. And she kind of was like, heads up, my father has an issue, so don't be surprised. She was like, oh, well, I'll deal with it, Like, he wasn't even trying to acknowledge her presence. So I'm like, come on. Like, you just talking about you seeing your son all this time. He brings a friend. Why would you do that? But anyways, so then he was talking about something. I was hearing your mother's voice. You gotta help me. And they were like, yeah, no, that's not about to happen. They were like, that's still in your head. Our mother is dead. Like, she's not coming back. And he was like, y'all are gonna help me. And I was like, oh God, I think he's finally gone mad. And so I think he really went mad a little bit. But then again, it was the voices. Like I said, that's where it became a little bit off-putting. I was like, see, I don't like this. I don't like the implications of this. And so they had to escape. And then they picked up the guy who was the fake Mandarin, who was talking to some weird, I'm like, whoever designed that, whatever. But anyway, some weird creature talking about we have to get to their village or whatever. Let's just go through the bamboo. And I'm like, you do realize that bamboo forest is swatting people like flies. Y'all better know what y'all are doing before y'all go up in there. And he's like talking about something. Keep going. Keep going. Frank says, make a sharp left turn. And I'm just like, Frank better be right. Because if he's wrong, like I said, that's going to be y'all. So they're going through the little bamboo forest or whatever. And they made it. They actually made it. And I was like, well, I'll be doggone. And then they were at their mother's village. And then their mother, had a sister. And she was like, I am so happy to see y'all. And of course, she was the actress who was, I don't remember any of these people's names except for Aquafina. But she was the actress who was the mother of the boyfriend in Crazy Rich Asians. I do remember that much. See, I remember faces. Names, don't hold against me. But anyways, she was like, oh yeah, I'm your mom's sister, and I'm just happy to finally meet y'all. And they were like, wow, we didn't even know we had a aunt. And so she was like, everybody trains here, men and women together. We don't do that discrimination stuff. You're welcome to train. She was like, good. And so he was like, okay, aunt, so you do realize that our mother was the only person who was able to stop him. She's not here no longer. So what are we supposed to do? So she's like teaching him and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, that's really nice. Come on, you gotta fight like your mama if you want to beat your dad. And so she was like teaching him all this stuff and whatnot, and he was trying to get over there. And it was just so unfair. Like he shouldn't have been able to get to them as fast as he did. But he did. And so they were trying to train his friend, and then of course he shows up, and then the scene that that cracked me up, and I think somebody made a meme about it. He was like, young man, blah 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 this, and he was like, watch how you talk to me. I've lived 10 of your lifetimes. I'm your elder. And I'm just like, I mean, but he's still like, an older man. So, but anyways, and he was like, I'm going to go to that little, gate that you got over there, and I'm going to break it open because my wife's behind you, and you're keeping her from me because you didn't want us to be together anyways. And they were like, that is not your wife. She is dead. And he was like, forget all y'all. And then he just loses it. And then he goes over there, and he's like punching the wall. And they were like, we have to stop him because he's going to let those things loose, and they're going to kill everybody. And if we don't stop him, then they're going to kill everybody in the outside world. And I was like, oh, God. Them things look like demon spawn. I low-key felt convicted and wanted to reach for some holy water. Them things was ugly, and I didn't appreciate it. And they were literally sucking the life, literally, out of people. And I was like, that's horrible. And then, stupid, his men talking about we gonna fight y'all. She was like, right now, your best option for staying alive is fighting with us because we have the weapons that can kill it. He had the audacity to still be like, no, we're not gonna do that. And then when he got attacked by one and almost died trying to stop it with his weapon, then he was like, we should fight together. I was like, no duh, you big doofus. But anyway, so they started fighting, and a lot of them died. And I felt so bad for the man that was trying to tell his friend, like, you should definitely not go out there because you're probably gonna get killed because you're not ready. You haven't trained long enough. Then he's trying to stop his father. His father's trying to kill him. Then he realizes what he's done. Like after he didn't have a little short heart to heart, and he didn't realize that he's become a horrible father. And that his wife, he's probably thinking to himself, she would be ashamed to see what kind of man I've become. But I still felt a little bad for him because he basically died. He basically gave up. He was like, I've done such horrible things. I've unleashed this monster, and it was a monster. Like I said, holy water at the screen. He was like, I've unleashed this monster. They tried to stop me, and I didn't listen, and I hurt my family. And, I guess he just felt like he didn't want to live anymore. And I was like, dang it. I hated that. Like I said, I did feel bad. And then I also was mad because I'm like, you're not just going to cause this problem and then it's going to just shirk it off on your kids. But that's kind of basically what he did. He was like, here, take the rings. It's up to you now. And I'm like, no, you didn't just cause all these problems and then just gave up. You scoundrel. But anyways, he took the rings, and so then the other dragon came, and I was like, well, check that out. And it was saving people's lives and all this kind of stuff, and they got on it. And then that thing tried to suck the life out of the dragon, and I was like, he's trying to kill the dragon, the good dragon. And, oh, by the way, what is it with Aquafina and dragons? Because, she was in that other movie. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, so he was on the dragon, and I thought, like, the graphics, how they designed this dragon was very beautiful. And it was, like, crazy, like, kind of mind-blowing and scary at the same time. Like, it, like, sucking the life out of it. And, like, them holding on, him holding on to his sister, and she was like, just let me go. He's like, no, I'll never let you go. And they defeated it together. Like, they defeated it together. And, of course, his friend, finally learn how to use the weapon and help them out. And they took that thing down. I was like, well, look at that. And they were like, well, finally we restored, balance back to everything and got rid of that thing. And now everybody's safe and, all that kind of stuff. And then, basically they went back home and they tried to tell their friends what happened. And of course they thought it was a joke because who would believe that? Who would believe that in a normal situation? And then, what's his name? I forgot what his name was. From the Doctor Strange series was like, yeah, I need y'all to come with me. And they were like, okay. And I'm like, so y'all not gonna ask, a host of questions? But anyways, and I think that, I guess it's safe to say that they're, together now, which they were giving me best friends but obviously needed to be together vibes. But I'm glad that they finally realized after almost dying that they needed to be together. Life was too short for y'all to be playing games. Be together. But anyways, so they definitely set it up for a part 2. And for even more of like the Marvel movies to be like merged together with the characters. So I'm very excited for that. Now, I know this is not, a part of the subject, but Spider-Man, I'm ready for that. And I can't wait. I'm going to do a review over that. They've been losing their minds over the trailers. Let me just be honest. I guess for good reason, but I can't wait. It's so exciting. So yeah. So y'all tell me what you think, what you thought about the movie. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did it deliver? Tell me what y'all think in the comments down below.